Hey comic book community, Long Box Love Affair here with a subscription contest submission for Spidercomics7, 100 subs contest. Doing something a little different today by spotlighting the top 100 villains. My comic book collection's all over the place, so I picked out some of my favorite images that were online and thought I'd showcase, what I had to offer here and who really strikes a fancy with me. There's quite a few to pick. I often will buy because of villains out there, so I hope you can find some similarities and maybe some differences of things that might strike your fancy. So the first up is Venom. Venom has always caught my attention. Early in my collecting days, I didn't realize that he was still a relatively new character at that time. Lethal Protector was out. Just the way his costume moves, how he's like the arch nemesis of Spider-Man. Always a sucker for that type of thing. Just super cool character, and even with Agent Venom happening and then him now going back to Eddie Brock, it's pretty awesome. Next up is Mr. Sinister, Nathaniel Essex. Super cool character. I love how Mark Silvestri drew him, and I like the recent interpretations. The Roberto Ramos versions are pretty cool. He's turned into a little bit of a hipster, hasn't he? Apparently he was originally designed as a kid's figment of imagination. That's why he had such a stupid name, Mr. Sinister. But then he really caught on as the leader of the Marauders. So something about him, I always love seeing him in stories. I'm also a big fan of the cosmic superheroes, so Galactus is a big part of that. I think that mythos is really interesting, and even in Fantastic Four, they did a storyline not too long ago where he was humanized, but now he's had so much different things happen to him. Apocalypse, anything Apocalypse I feel like I need to have. There's something about him, and I'm not sure why. I think it's all about how we first get introduced to these characters. So, as the and Sabaneur, the character that has eternal life, the mythology he has with X-Factor, with X-Men, is pretty cool. I love his recent stories with the Apocalypse Wars story arc. I loved how he was drawn by Rob Liefeld in the Cable 75 issue. Him as Cable's arch nemesis, and Cable's one of my favorite characters, so Apocalypse fits in nicely there. And then jumping to DC Comics, the Anti-Monitor has always fascinated me. I've not known a lot about him, and mostly got really into him around the Sinestro Wars story arc when he became the main baddie with that. So with the Apocalypse War storyline in JLA starting with 40, I've really got into that, and I know that he's in the movies. Actually, no, that's Darkseid in the movies coming up. So that was the Darkseid Wars. So Darkseid, speaking of which, that's a killer cover right there. Major baddie in the universe. Actually, I call him Darkseid, but it's really probably Darkseid, isn't it? Super cool drawing by Jim Lee. Just really enjoy this character. He's sort of this monster force, especially in this picture. And how the characters defeat him is beyond me, but I guess it takes more than two. New character design, I'm curious to see how he's implemented into the Rebirth storylines, and then also with the JLA movie coming out. One of my favorites is Thanos. He's not too far off from Darkseid, is he? Infinity Gauntlet's where I first started collecting, and it holds a special place in my heart. I'm excited he's going to be in the movies, the Avengers movies, and he's part of the Silver Surfer mythos. Just everything about him really strikes a chord with me. I collected all of his earlier issues with Jim Starlin's writing, and to be honest, that's where it's at. That was Thanos at his best, and I highly recommend you reaching out and finding those issues of the life and death of Thanos. And Adam Warlock as a hero is one of my favorites, so those two are inextricably linked together. The Infinity series with Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, Infinity Crusade, and then Infinity Abyss, and just Infinity. Those all are amazing. So, speaking of which, the Magus is Adam Warlock's Darkseid. This is a super confusing mythology that I had to look up, but he's basically the dark persona of Adam Warlock. He's not around a lot, so I really enjoy this character, even though he had that crazy hair. Just a super baddie that there's something about him that I want to see more of and would hope they bring him back. can't not love Spider-Man without hating the Green Goblin and Norman Osborn, and I'm curious to see how they're going to evolve this character now that they brought him back. The Green Goblin as a whole, I haven't seen a whole lot of him lately, but just a super baddie that is worth knowing for Spider-Man. Strife. Strife is one of my favorites, and I'm not sure why. He hasn't been around a whole lot, but he's sort of the antithesis of Cable as Cable's clone. That mystery that surrounded Strife, of whether he was the real or the clone, was so pervasive in the 90s, so I was glad that they resolved that. The way that Rob Liefeld draws Strife, just have a special place in my heart for that, and everything about him is pretty cool. So congrats, Spidercomics7. Hope you enjoyed this show of villains, and look forward to seeing more of what you have. Take care.